All right, thanks again for attending. To get started, I'm going to start with this slide that represents what we call the RTI Challenge. Today, teachers are challenged to improve student math proficiency, sometimes by 2 or more grade levels in just a single school year or even less than a school year. As you can see on this graph, there is a green bar that represents the student's grade level competency. The red bar represents the green bar represents their grade level placement. The red bar represents their grade level competency, and as you can tell with these intervention students, this gap can grow year after year. And so by the time the students enter your classroom, they can be anywhere from 2 to 3 to even more grade levels behind. As an illustration of this, represents a sample this is a 9th grade intervention class from an actual school in Texas. We tested them using our level recommendation test, which I will go over in a few minutes, to determine what their grade level proficiency was. They were in the 9th grade. We wanted to find out what their competency was. We discovered that 14% of them were actually at the 9th grade level, but about a quarter of them were a full grade level behind. About another quarter of them were 2 full grade levels behind. And as you can see, almost a third of them were operating at the 4th grade level. This is the challenge that teachers are facing across the country. Students come into your classroom and you need to be able to determine what is the grade level competency of this student. And then if I get a general idea of on what grade level to start them with, how do I identify exactly what their skill gaps are? What have they mastered in previous years, and what do I need to teach them? And then you need to be able to find the appropriate resources to close those skill gaps and try and move them up to grade level as quickly as possible. This is the problem that Ascend Math was created to address. The goal of Ascend Math is to meet students at their level. We do this for a couple of reasons. One, math is a logical, sequential discipline, and you need to build on previous skills. So if you have serious foundational cracks in your math background, you're not going to be able to have success on level. Additionally, these students who may have been struggling for some time in the math are not used to having math success, and by starting them at their competency level, where they're going to have success in math and be able to make progress and see themselves growing from session after session, it helps to build their engagement and build their confidence in math. Using our approach, we see excellent results. This slide shows you the results at a school in Arizona called Yonkers High School. They used Ascend Math for 4 months from August to November of 2011, and this chart represents the gains, the grade level gains that those students made. You can see that 16% of them did not quite gain a full year in math competency during those 4 months, but 23% of them gained a full year of math competency in just a 4-month period of time, and over 60% of them gained either 2 or 3 years in math competency in just this 1 semester, 4-month period of time. This is a result that we commonly see if Ascend Math is being used with fidelity 1.5 to 2 hours per week per student. We will often see students gaining 2 or more grade levels in just a single semester. So how do we do this? What is our approach? To begin with, all students that log into Ascend Math, the first thing that they'll be given is what we call our level recommendation test, and you can see our recommendation test questions on the screen right now. The level recommendation test is an adaptive assessment, and by adaptive I mean that it gets progressively more difficult or easier depending on the student's previous answers. It's anywhere from 10 to 40 questions and takes the students about half an hour. After they have taken the recommendation test, the program will recommend a starting grade level for that student. So they only take this test once, and it's to place them in Ascend Math at a grade level that's appropriate for their skills. And again, if you have any questions, I will unmute in a few minutes, and you can also use the chat interface on the GoToMeeting software. Once a student has been placed at grade level in Ascend Math, they are assigned all of the content for that grade level in a series of small units. These units consist of anywhere from, say, 3 to 9 objectives. You can see some of our default units on the screen right now. And at the beginning of each of these units, when a student is assigned this unit, they will take a pre-assessment that covers all of the objectives in that unit. The pre-assessments have 3 questions per objective, so for this first unit it will have 12 questions. And the purpose of the pre-assessments is to determine whether or not a student has already mastered the skills in this unit. If the student has mastered those skills, then those particular the lessons pertaining to those objectives are removed from their study plan. If they have not mastered, if the pretest shows that they have not mastered these skills, then they're placed in the study plan and the students will go through instruction based on the skills that they have yet to master. And I'll show you the student experience in just a few moments. This is the way that we methodically identify exactly where a student's skill gaps at every grade level lie, and we build an individualized study plan for each student using Ascend Math. This is the student flow. When a student first logs into Ascend, this is assuming they've already been placed at grade level and taken their level recommendation test, they will log in, then they will check to see if they have lessons in their study plan. If there aren't lessons in their study plan, it just means they're at the beginning of a new unit, so they need to take the pre-assessment for the next unit. That will automatically populate their study plan with lessons. There's nothing that the instructor needs to do here. It's automatic, and students work independently. Once there are lessons in their study plan, they'll start the next lesson, they'll go through the learning activities, and take a post-assessment. If they pass that post-assessment, then they are routed back to their study plan to begin working on their next identified skill gap. If they do not pass the post-assessment, they're routed back to the learning activities again to take the lesson again and take the post-assessment until such time as they can actually pass the post-assessment. The students are not allowed to progress forward until they have mastered the objectives in the sequence that Ascend Math has laid out. This is an example of some of the reporting that you can get in Ascend Math, and I'll show you some of the other reporting later. The purpose of this slide is to show you that once students have taken pre-assessments, you're able to pull up a report that each student's individual study plan. So they're color-coded. You can see a student's results on the pre-assessment. The red results means that they did not pass the pre-assessment. Green results mean that they did. The default passing score for pre-assessments is 70%. So since there are 3 questions, they need to get all 3 right to be considered to have shown mastery of that particular skill. This gives instructors a great idea of the skills that their class may be strong or weak in prior to instruction in Ascend Math. We have just added more than 60 new Common Core related objectives in Ascend Math, and the main thrust behind these objectives is to help students visualize math concepts. We're very concerned with not just with teaching students a formula by which they can find the right answer, but with teaching them ways to visualize math concepts so they understand why the correct answers are correct. And I'll walk you through one of these a little bit later in the presentation. Now I'm going to launch the student experience from our website. This is the student experience page of our website. You can preview, you can just go to our website, ascendmath.com, click on the student experience link, and you'll be able to go in and preview the student experience all the way from early elementary down to Algebra 1. I'm going to go into this 6th grade lesson here, multiplication and division applications of fractions. Now we're looking at the student dashboard. Every student has a dashboard that gives the student a snapshot of the progress that they're making in Ascend Math and how much further they have to go. Every student has an avatar. That avatar is climbing a mountain. That mountain represents the unit that the student is currently working on. Every objective that they have been assigned, every lesson they have been assigned, is represented by one of these climbing spikes in the side of the mountain. So as a student makes progress through the unit, their avatar moves up and up until the avatar reaches the top and captures the flag. Once they capture the flag, it gets added to the flags that they've already captured along the top, and they can also see how many more flags they have to capture until they finish this particular grade level. If a student completes an entire grade level in Ascend Math, they are rewarded with a mountain peak in the background. You can even click on it here. I'm going to click on Mount Olympus, and you get a little picture and a fact about the mountain. So One of the things that you'll notice that we don't show students is we don't show them what grade level they're currently working at. Some of these students may feel a little bit embarrassed at working about the fact that they may be working 3 grade levels behind. So we want their experience in Ascend Math to be a positive experience. So we just show them the progress that they're making. So as a student, when I log in and see my dashboard, the only thing I need to do to start a lesson is press the Start Lesson button. Here is the format that our lessons take. They begin with a study guide, they move on to a video, then there's an explore phase where they can visualize math concepts, they get to try it on their own in the practice phase, then there's a review phase, and finally the post-assessment. Notice that the post-assessment is currently locked. You can't jump straight to the post-assessment without going through the previous steps. So to begin with, the study guide. Let me open one here. The study guide is a PDF document that we recommend that the student has printed out and in front of them. Even though it is a computer program, we strongly believe in students showing their work. So they can print the study guide out, have it in front of them, and follow along with the instructor. The study guides are integrated into the video. So this question here, how many quarter-pound hamburgers can be made from 5 pounds of meat? That question will show up again during the video as the teacher explains the concept. The study guides also have practice questions as well for the students to practice on their own. Study guides are also available in Spanish if that is useful. So after the study guide has been printed out and is available to the student, we have the video phase.
During this objective, we'll be looking at applications dealing with multiplication and division of fractions. How many 1/4 pound hamburgers can be made from 5 pounds of meat?
So we have a teacher, on-screen teacher, in a one-on-one tutoring format that will read the question aloud to the students. We use on-screen graphics to help them visualize the concept and help frame the problem. And then the teacher will, as necessary, do the math on the whiteboard behind her while explaining the process. These videos are interactive, which is a great thing about them. They will occasionally pause to remind the students to take notes at this point, or to have the student do a simple calculation that may be related to the lesson content. Additionally, a student at any time who might be having a little bit of trouble with this lesson or just wants to review can grab the scrubber bar here and move back and forth so they can rewatch sections of the video as many times as is necessary until they feel comfortable with the concept. The videos are also available with closed captioning in English and in Spanish. Once students have watched the instructional video, they get a chance to explore the concept with the explore phase. Here, what they're tasked with is it's a drag and drop, where they need to drag the parts to find the product of 1/3 and 1/2. Now, you can teach them using a formula to come up with the right answer, which is 1/6, but we want them to be able to visualize why that answer is correct. So we give them this drag and drop. So the student can drag the box representing 1/3 over to the answer box, can drag the box representing 1/2 over, and then immediately you can see that the overlap of those two is 1 of 6 rectangles. The answer is 1/6. This is a way for students to visually solve math problems without picking up a pencil and kind of cement their understanding of math concepts. Once they have finished with the explore phase, they move on to the practice phase. Now they get a chance to try it on their own with word problems. I'm going to get this one wrong on purpose and check my answer. Well, Ascend Math tells me that's incorrect. But since this is just a teaching tool, this is not a graded exercise, we give them the option of having Ascend Math show them the answer so they can work backwards and figure out where their mistake was. Or, if they want, they can launch a solution video that is specific to this problem.
A recipe for biscuits calls for 2/3 of a cup of flour.
So we have help built into the practice problems for students who might be still struggling with the concept. At any time, they can go back to the explore phase and back to the video phase if they need a little bit of reteaching. The practice questions are also available for read aloud in Spanish. Once they have finished with the practice problems, they move on to the review phase. The review phase consists of another PDF document that students can print out and keep in their Ascend Math folder. And you know, we're often dealing with struggling math students, and if they took notes the first time when they had this in class, say 3 years ago, they probably still do not have those notes. And it's difficult for a classroom instructor to always have the right supplemental material on hand for every grade level and every objective. So we provide them with review sheets for each lesson that they're working in. So here we have, in this particular review document, we have a review of keywords and key phrases. We also have example problem and an example solution. So they can review this and determine whether or not they feel ready to take the post-assessment. Once they are finished with the review phase, we move on to the post-assessment phase. The format is very similar to the practice phase, except this time there's no help built in. There are 5 questions in the post-assessment. The default passing rate is 80%. Now you can adjust that depending on the population that you're dealing with, but by default the passing rate is 80%. So a student would need to get 4 of 5 questions right to be considered to have mastered this particular objective. If they pass this post-assessment, then they will move on to the next lesson, to their next identified skill gap. If they do not pass, then they are routed back to this particular lesson to go through the learning activities again. So right now I'm going to unmute everyone, and we might get a little bit of background noise, but I want to see if anybody has any questions.
Unmuted.
Are there any questions about the student experience or anything that I've shown you so far?
Are the questions the second time around different?
Yes, that's a very good question. The post-assessment questions are going to be different the second time around. So they can't just by trial and error get to know the test. And even if they did encounter the same question from our question bank, which is unlikely, the answers are going to be randomized. So it's very unlikely that students are just going to be able to brute force their way through the test.
Okay, good.
Any other questions?
I think I might have come in late, but what grades or skill levels does this target?
Oh, I actually haven't mentioned that yet. We are K through 12.
Okay,
So
great.
we
Thank you.
start at kindergarten and we go all the way up through. Our regular high school product includes Algebra 1, and we have an optional Algebra 2 component that you can purchase as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Any other
Do you
questions?
have geometry?
We do have geometry. That is correct.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to mute everybody again. If you have questions again, you can use the chat interface in the GoToMeeting software. So there are a couple of other things I wanted to show you about the student experience. This is the student dashboard again. We think it's very important for teachers and students to have agreed upon goals in terms of the time on task that students will be putting in every week in Ascend Math and the number of objectives able to complete during that time. So we built in a progress report to Ascend Math. At any time, students can click on the progress report. They can see the current objective that they're working on. They can see how many units they have completed on this grade level and how many more they have to go. They can check their time on task for yesterday, this week, and last week. And they can take a look at the other units and objectives that they have been assigned. It's color-coded, so they can immediately tell if it's blue, that means they actually went through the learning activities. If it's green, that meant they placed out of it on the pre-assessment. So they can go back and review everything they have looked at. They can also see the grade levels that they've completed. So this is a way for students and teachers to be able to meet weekly and be on the same page in terms of what the teacher's expectations are in terms of time on task and the number of objectives completed. Looks like I have a question in the chat box here. Yes, the question is about iPads. Yes, we are platform neutral. We've gotten rid of Flash in our interface, and so we will run on Chromebooks, iPads, Macs, and PCs. The other thing I wanted to show you in the student experience is the flashcard math. Many times these students who are struggling in math are struggling with their basic math fact fluency, and we've built in flashcard math as a resource for them to be able to work on at any time. So here, as a student, I'm going to choose an operation. I'll choose addition. I will select a number. Let's choose 5. I'm going to leave the timer off. I could turn it on or give myself a time limit and hit start. And it's a math flashcard program. This is a way for students to practice their math facts. We don't want them to be held up, especially if they're in a timed testing environment, by their inability to handle just basic math facts. So we give them the opportunity to practice. The great thing about this for the instructor is that this data is all captured on the back end. So you can pull up math facts fluency statistics for your entire class or even for individual students. Some of our partner schools will choose to use flashcard math sessions even as part of their grading plan for particular students. So that is the Ascend Math student experience in a nutshell. Let me zip back to my presentation here. And I have another question. Is this designed to be used to supplement classroom instruction or replace classroom instruction? This is designed to supplement classroom instruction. We do contain a full curriculum, but is not designed to replace classroom instruction. That being said, students can master entire grade levels worth of material working independently in Ascend, but it's designed to be used in conjunction with the teacher's instruction. So I've talked about flashcard math and why we built it into the program. Let me zip over to the Ascend Climber. And this is just a little graphic that gives you a visual as the student completes objectives in Ascend Math. Their climber moves up, and when they reach the top, they capture the flag, fireworks go off, and there's usually a voice in the background that will say, "Oh yeah," or give a Tarzan yell, or some other positive reinforcement of the student's progress in Ascend. We do this because we think it's very, very important for these struggling students to see the progress that they're making. We have another question. How many days a week to use as a supplement to be effective? What we have found is that if students can get in 90 to 120 minutes per week in Ascend Math, that seems to be the sweet spot where we really start seeing the strong results, where we start seeing students gaining 2 or even more grade levels in just a single semester, a 3 to 4 month period of time. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the reporting in Ascend. If students are all working independently at different grade levels and all on different objectives, you need really good reporting to be able to tell what's going on with your students, and we provide that for you. Here we have a portion of a report called a Course Progress Report for a student, Jamie Roberts. We can see the total number of problems the student has attempted on pre-assessment. We can see what their percent correct was, their time on task, and their percent correct after instruction on the post-assessment, and even what their gain and score has been. So for many students for whom your task was showing progress, you can pull this course progress report and it will show you that student's progress in Ascend Math and the gains that they have made. This is another portion of that same report. This is a great report to use for IEP meetings or parent-teacher conferences because it breaks down in detail all of a student's performance in Ascend Math. On the left, we have every unit and objective that the student has been assigned. We have their pre-assessment scores, their time on task during the lesson, their post-assessment scores, and even the number of times they have taken the post-assessment. We also show you the time they spent on the post-assessment. So if you have a student who may have failed the post-assessment, but you see that they only spent 37 seconds on it, that gives you an idea that maybe they weren't applying themselves or there was a serious issue there. So these reports are very detailed, and you can see every aspect of a student's performance in Ascend Math. And speaking of students that may be failing post-assessments, if you recall from the earlier flowchart that I showed you, if a student fails the post-assessment, they're routed back to the learning activities again, and then they take the post-assessment again. Well, as an instructor, you want to know when to allow a student to continue to work independently and when to step in and intervene if a student is having trouble with a particular objective. So we have the post-assessment result report that will show you on an objective-by-objective basis how every student is doing on each lesson. So we can see this last student here, number 4, Jacob Shaver, has taken this particular post-assessment 6 times, and his last score was a 60. That lets you know as an instructor when and where to intervene, and then when and where to, and then you can also monitor other students and allow them to continue working independently in Ascend. We have another question. Do you get a report showing the grade level of each objective? You will be able to pull a report that shows you what the grade level is that the student is currently assigned to, and so all of the objectives that student will be working on will be at that grade level. Then when the student has completed all of the objectives on that grade level, they are promoted to the next grade level, and a new individualized study plan is built for them at that grade level. So they progress on a grade-by-grade basis through Ascend. Another question, work from home? Yes, they can. They can work from anywhere they have an internet connection. This is all hosted. It's all web-based. There's nothing to install on your machines. So anywhere they can log in, they can work. Another great thing about the post-assessment result report is it gives you a quick way to find out which objectives, which particular skills the class may still be struggling with after instruction. This is great information. It helps you determine when you want to do whole class instruction on a particular objective. It informs how you might want to construct small groups because you can see which students have struggled with which objectives, and it also lets you know, like I said before, when to individually intervene with particular students. I have a question. How many minimum weeks should Ascend Math be used as an intervention? It depends on your goals for that particular student and your constraints, but we do have students that work in Ascend Math year-round. I don't know that there is a minimum. If your goal is to get a student to increase from the 3rd grade competency to the 5th grade competency, then you can work until you reach that point. But we don't have a minimum number of weeks of recommendation because all students will all be working at their own pace, and so they will make progress at their own pace. This is another report. This is a high-level report that shows this is great for administrators. It shows your pretest gains and versus your post-test results, or your pretest scores versus post-test scores for entire classes. So here you can see that what the 5th grade scored on the pretest and what the average 5th grade score was on the post-test, and even what the change in score was. This is great for principals and other administrators who really want to get an idea of how well Ascend Math is working in the classroom. I'm going to switch now from talking about reporting to talking about results. Like I said before, we will often see students using Ascend Math gain 2 or more grade levels in just a single semester. These are some schools that have used, schools at Ascend Math partners that have used Ascend Math with their special education population and the results they've been able to get. In Calcasieu Parish in Louisiana, they used it with grades 9 through 12 for Tier 3 intensive intervention. They found that their incoming students weren't prepared for the rigorous math curriculum offered in high school. 100 students that were surveyed, 73% of those Tier 3 students who were at risk to fail, after using Ascend Math, they passed their math course with a grade C or greater. So we pulled we pulled at random 100 students from this particular implementation, and 73% of them who were at risk to fail were able to pass with a C or greater using Ascend. In Fort Stockton Middle School in Texas, they used it in grades 6 through 8. They used it with their special education population in addition to their at-risk and failing math students. And after just 6 months of use, 86% of their special education students passed the TAKS, which is the Texas mandated test. They had set an ambitious goal of 75%, and using Ascend Math for 6 months, they blew it out and had 86% of their students pass. At Grissom Middle School in Indiana, they again used it in grades 6 through 8. They hadn't made AYP in the category of special education, but after just 5 months of using Ascend, 80% of their special education students grew an entire grade level, while 56% of them, more than half of their students, grew 2 or more grade levels in just a 5-month period of time. So I am now going to unmute everyone. Here we go, and if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to field your questions right now. Otherwise, if you'd like more information, please feel free to contact me. That's our main number at the bottom of the screen. That's my personal email address. Feel free to email me with more information or stay on, and I will answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much for attending today.
And they don't work. Yeah. No, I know, believe me, I know. I'm not laughing.
Oh, we have a question about Ascend Math licenses. We currently are having a bit of a promotion called the Ascend Math Starter Kit, and these are licenses prorated to the end of June, so it's an affordable way to implement Ascend Math out until the end of June. If you would like pricing information on those, please email me and I'll put you in touch with your representative. Our standard pricing is at the elementary level, $28 per student for an annual subscription. At the middle school level, it's $38 per student for an annual subscription, and at the high school level, it's $58 per student. If you would like a price quote, again, email me and I will get you in touch with your rep. There are also some training and account setup costs to factor into that as well.
Do you have any middle schools in Florida now using this?
You know, I'm not the Florida rep, so I'm fairly certain we do, but I don't know what they are off the top of my head. But one thing that you can do, if you'd like to take a look at some of our implementations and our success stories, if you go to our website, which is ascendmath.com, and click on the results tab up at the top, you can see our success profiles for district implementations, high schools, middle schools, and here we go. Here's one, Braden River Middle School in Florida is on our success stories page. So if you want to take a look at other schools that have used Ascend Math and the results that they've gotten, feel free to contact me or go to our webpage and look at the results tab. There's plenty of information there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Is there a program I can play with in my classroom, like after school, to see how it works?
Yeah, you can go
like a teacher sampling.
to see how it works on the teacher end, or just to see more examples of the student experience.
Oh, both actually.
Well, what you can do is you can, if you send me an email, or I can have your rep contact you. What is your name?
My name's Kim.
Oh, I'm sorry, somebody signed off.
Karen Keen, Kiehn. I'm at Murray Middle School in Stewart, Florida.
Okay. I will have your rep get in touch with you, and they may be able to set you up with a trial account so you can go in and see the teacher interface, and they can follow up with you on that. We do have pilot programs available. I have a question that was entered here into the chat. Is there a minimum subscription? Typically, our minimum order size would be 25 or more. Our starter kits right now that we have on kind of a promotional pricing bundle is a bundle of 25 licenses. Occasionally, depending on the circumstances, we can do fewer than that. And we do have pilot programs that are available if you want to give Ascend Math a try. Typically, our pilots are 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, well, great. Well, thank you all for participating today. And again, please feel free to take my contact information down. And if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to help you out. Thanks, everybody. And have a great holiday.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.